Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special guest, Christian Ojakjian, who is a college hoops guy through and through. He's a producer for Enjoy Basketball. He has great insight and write-ups on college basketball picks, and he also covered Wake Forest for 5 years. Christian, give me a rating out of 10 for the pronunciation of your last name, but most importantly, welcome to the channel, brother. It's been a long time coming.
Great to be here, J-Man. You know I got a lot of respect for you. It's been fun to be mutuals on Twitter and actually bring it to life finally. 9 out of 10 on the pronunciation. You did a great job.
Look, I'm trying over here. Look, Christian, him and I have followed each other for a few years. Really good stuff. His Twitter handle is underneath him right now at ODJ Hoops, and he does a fantastic job. Like I said, has write-ups for college basketball picks, which is why you guys should be watching this video right now, because we're going to have the conference tournament preview of the ACC, the Big East, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC. So there's going to be a lot to talk about, a lot of ball. 3 of the 31 automatic bids have been confirmed at the beginning of this recording, and that is Omaha won the Summit League, SIUE won the Ohio Valley, and High Point finally wins the Big South. High Point obviously was a wagon last year, but didn't win the conference tournament. They're going dancing this year. But today we're starting with the ACC, something we're familiar with. Like I said, you were at Wake Forest, covered Wake Forest for 5 years. I'm obviously a Duke fan. What did you think about the Duke UNC game last night?
Flag picking up the 2 early definitely added a wrinkle. Just after watching that first matchup, and I understand the difference between when this game is played in Cameron versus when it's played at the Dean Dome, and I understand how much Carolina had in the line. I understand CU Night, but like you broke it down the tape. Like Carolina's ability to create shots with their personnel was just really low. You knew they needed to go on a heater and just run as much as they could. And they did it for a stretch. Credit to them. I never really was nervous about Duke coming back. Like, Flag is just on such another level. Malik Brown was fantastic. I know you tweeted about his plus minus. Knipple was really solid as well. Hit some shots, but like there's Duke has a 78. Duke's odds to win this tournament are like minus 320, which is implying like a 78% chance, which feels low. Even though we'll get into Clemson, and I'm a believer in them as well. But Carolina, like, just there's a lot of talent on the perimeter, but there's a reason why they're 30-1 odds to win this tournament and why they're not looking like an NCAA tournament team. But they definitely put a scare in that teams haven't really been able to do.
Yeah, it's just weird. I put the tournament odds up on the screen now. This is all via DraftKings that I have. Well, Duke is the favorite, Louisville second, Clemson's third, North Carolina's fourth at plus 3,000. And I agree with you, man. UNC, I tweeted it last night, it has to be frustrating if you're a UNC fan. I'm going to put the graphic for the ACC tournament so people can see before we start talking about it. But they've been down double digits against Duke, at Kansas, Michigan State, and Florida, and they came back and took the lead in those games, and it still inevitably lost those games. So 4 really good teams. Kansas has fallen off a cliff since then, but they're the number 1 team at the time, and it was at Kansas. To know that UNC's been that close and to have fallen to be now 20-12 has to be infuriating. But the reason they're out of the dance right now is definitely because of that 2-game losing streak to Jalen Blake's and Stanford, and then Wake Forest the game after that.
The Stanford loss was, I'm pretty sure my boy Reno at 25. Blake's game winner is crazy considering. I don't know what you thought of him at Duke. I wasn't very impressed. And when I saw Stanford was starting him, I'm like, all right, Stanford's not going to be very good this year. But credit to him, he's been much better than I thought. Carolina's defense has just been. You see in the runs, right? You see in the runs. Even Dayton was. I know you didn't mention Dayton because they won that game, but like the seal. You've seen the ceiling flash. But they can only do it in spurts. And we have a big enough sample size that this team can be really, really good in spurts. But guess what? When you're not making every shot and you don't move the ball and you don't have any interior scoring options other than Ben Allen Lubin putbacks, like,
yeah, it's tough.
You can't be good for a whole game against a good team.
It's tough. But now the AC tournament is set. And so obviously the AC's bad. Let's just face it. I think the top 3 teams, I'm going to save most of this for the NCAA tournament preview, but I really like, obviously, Duke. I like Louisville, and I really like Clemson. I pounded the table for Clemson. But the bottom of the ACC, I mean, Notre Dame, bad. Pitt, bad. The first round of the ACC tournament is going to be some bad basketball. And obviously, Miami didn't make it.
Got the 3 worst teams even in the bracket.
Yeah, correct. The 3 worst teams aren't even in the bracket. Jay Lucas just arrived in Miami today. Keats got fired from NC State. And who's the team that I missed?
Boston College. And Earl Grant always wins in the ACC tournament, so I wanted to see them get in.
Now the first round it's a bloodbath. So do you have a dark horse for the ACC with anybody? Like, I say dark horse because, like I said, the gap between 3 and 4 is a pretty big drop off. And so I don't know if you see anybody that you think could make a run to obviously meet or knock off Duke going to the ACC championship game.
So the way I'm looking at trying to evaluate a sleeper here is what day 1 team could get to the quarters or what day 2 team could get to the semis.
I should have prefaced that. Yes. Like when I say sleeper or dark horse, it's a team that's going to make a deep run from first round to quarters or second round to semis. So, right. Yeah.
Well, Carolina's going to be favored against Wake for sure. So we're going to see Carolina Duke again, in my opinion. I would be surprised. I mean, okay, Wake can obviously beat Carolina, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did, but I'm just saying Carolina will be favored in that game. Mm-hmm. Pitt was a top 15 team at some point this season, and the way Carolina defends in their Pitt has played Carolina well this year. And I don't think – and Pitt almost won at Wake. So Pitt would be my sneaky day 1 team that could make it all the way to the semis. And then the other one is Cal has given Stanford some good games. It would not – and Virginia Tech is an A-10 at best roster. Like, Cal's got some good players. I like this freshman guard Wilkinson. Jovan Blackshear from Grand Canyon has been turned it up lately. Like, they're – considering how – of the bad teams, I kind of like Cal. And they've seen Stanford – twice, I'm pretty sure. So for them to give Louisville a jab, like I'm interested to see what you think of Louisville. I think they're kind of being ACC merchants. Like they just haven't impressed me in the way that Clemson, I just think translates better to a tournament setting and translates to playing teams they haven't seen before in the NCAA tournament than Louisville. But my caveat is I think injuries have hurt Louisville, and I'm incredibly impressed with Pat. It's not a knock on Pat Kelsey, but I'm sorry, I'm talking about Louisville. We're talking about sleepers, but my answers are Cal and Pitt.
No, I mean, that's fine. We can go, look, this channel, we just talk ball, baby. I don't have a script over here. So to go off of the Cal thing, Wilkinson, he is the one – he had that one vote for AC Rookie of the Year in the preseason. Everybody's like, who is this guy from Cal that just took the one vote from Cooper Flagg? And he's played well, but obviously not the Flagg standards. But that's a great trivia question for the future of who had the one vote for preseason AC Rookie of the Year that was not Cooper Flagg, and it was Wilkinson from Cal. But Pitt is an interesting pick for me, or that you said, because you are right. Like, it's a capable team that is so, like, they're so volatile. Like, when they're on, and the play-in game in March Madness like a couple years ago, and they went to the Sweet 16 or something like that. They ran the table, I think, in March a few years ago. Maybe I'm making that up, but they play well. He has individuals that will go off, but then when they don't have good individual play, they fall off a cliff, and they're the 13th ranked team in the ACC. So it's just very volatile. My sleeper pick would be UNC because they've shown flashes in the pan this season, like I've stated, and it's hard for – I think they would beat Notre Dame or Pitt, and I think they would beat Wake Forest because Wake Forest's offense is just – it's been very disappointing to me. You know, I'm huge on Hunter Salas, and just the way this team has been playing this year has been disappointing. I think UNC would beat them. And then for the Duke game, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season, but I think Duke does beat UNC a 3rd time. But I could see UNC giving Duke a tough first half again, and then I think inevitably Duke's going to win the ACC, or it's going to be in the championship game with Clemson. I think it's Duke-Clemson. I think I would favor Duke in the rematch against Clemson when they played the first time at Clemson. Cooper Flagg had the flu and played through it. So I think I like Duke for that. And the Louisville thing you're talking about, it's interesting because I go back and forth on them. I remember very, very early in the season, they were like a pick'em at home against Tennessee, and so many people were riding Louisville.
I took Louisville.
Oh, I did too. And right when the game started, I was like, I'm an idiot. I don't know why I fed into the hype. And then Tennessee obviously ran him out of the gym, and Louisville. But Louisville's shown, even with injuries, they've overcome them. But I do agree with you to an extent that they are ACC merchants, that they're beating like really bad teams. and kind of getting away with it, and they could be exposed in March. I think their ceiling in March Madness is like the round of 32. I think they could win the first round matchup, and then I wanted to say Sweet 16, but I really think it's going to be round of 32. Whereas for Clemson, I really like Clemson to make the Elite Eight, and I think Duke can obviously make the deeper run for the ACC.
Louisville's 19th in Ken Palm defense on the season, which is crazy to me. That doesn't sync up with what I've seen with my eyes. They're very solid defensive end. Like there's no area of weakness really. They maybe not great shot blocking. I think about the fact that, well, one, Rain Smith should be fine, but he didn't play against Stanford. But Keyshawn Pryor, Corin Johnson are two really good players that they didn't have. Pat Kelsey likes to use a deep team and, deserves all the credit in the world for how he's adjusted and the way they've played. And they've literally lost one time since December 15th. Like, that's hella impressive. I agree with you with the limited ceiling. They want to take so many threes, and maybe it's a little bias of like who Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards are. They've been playing really well, but I still just don't know if they're as high level. There's just, at the end of the day, it's about players, and I just don't know. Give me Chase Hunter and Zachary over Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards any day of the week. But yeah, that's just me personally. And then one last pit note: Damian Dunn going out is an underrated reason why they've lost all these games. They've gone on three 4-game losing streaks in ACC play, but I just want to run through it really quickly. They got smacked by Duke. It was close it was close for a while, right? And then Duke went on a 30-1 run or whatever to end the game. They lost by 4 to Louisville, lost at FSU by 12, lost in overtime at home to Clemson. Then they lost by 2 at Wake. The game where everything kind of flipped, people still thought they were good at that point. Then they lost by 16 at home to Virginia, which just kind of broke them, but they lost by 1 at Carolina, got blown out at SMU, lost by 4 at Notre Dame, lost at home to Georgia Tech. Then I don't know if this is – they lost at Louisville by 11, and then they lost at NC State by 8. The way I told that didn't sound as compelling as I thought it would when I was thinking about it in my head, but I still think they're for a 13th seed in a bad league, they're much better than that. I think they're a better team than SMU and Stanford. The freshman guard Brandon Cummings, he had his best game of the season last game, he's a guy to watch out for because Leggett and Lowe can go. They can cook. And Austin can shoot and defend. So.
And that's what Capel relies on, man, that he relies on individual play to be superior than opponents. And in a tournament setting, Pitt has done that pretty successfully with Capel. And I don't know, you're talking me into Pitt, dude. I was relying on Carolina being my sleeper, but
they could lose to Notre Dame. They could 1,000% lose to Notre Dame.
That is true. That is 100% true. This is what the Pitt conversation starts at with the first round, because they could beat a UNC, but they got to beat a Notre Dame, and that's the tricky part. But I would say, for the value-wise, I would say North Carolina plus 3,000 to maybe flirt with another upset with Duke in the semis. Again, that's a tall task. That's very hard to do. But if it's not Duke, then it's got to be Clemson also plus 700. I think they should have the second best odds, not Louisville. But I just think Clemson, they're so good with what their top 3 players can give them.
I am intrigued by the fact that Louisville has better odds than Clemson. To me, that doesn't make sense. I don't think it's Louisville. Are they saying Louisville's second round opponent is that much better than SMU? I disagree with that. I'm not that impressed by SMU. I have one interesting Duke mind exercise I want to run you through. I'm getting flashes of the Paulo Banchero team, which is the last ACC tournament I was at in Brooklyn, of they played Syracuse and then Miami before losing to Virginia Tech. And that Virginia Tech team was on God mode. They had the Maddox buzzer, really playing well. Couture went on that heater. But when Duke played Syracuse and Miami, they were, and obviously that Miami team went on to Elite Eight. We knew how good they were, but Syracuse and the Boeheims were going crazy. Syracuse wouldn't go away. They were right there against a much better Duke team. And then Miami was outmatched, down low with Mark Williams and Banchero. But Miami was scrappy and scoring just a lot of tough shots from McGusty and Charlie Moore and Wong. And they gave a scare and they played pretty fucking fantastic, but they didn't win. And that's kind of what I see with Carolina in that game. I feel it's one of those games where Carolina could really ball out and lose by 12. That's just what it is. And I just think Clemson is the one team that in a half-court game actually has a shot at Duke, and everybody else doesn't have anything resembling a shot.
Yeah, I agree with that. It does kind of resemble 2022 a little bit. I just think this Duke team is so much more disciplined.
Yes.
Defensively.
Don't even get me started on Trevor Keels.
Yeah. I mean, I think
nuts when he would shoot instead of swinging the rock.
I think, and that's offensively. Defensively, I think they were 49th in Ken Palm that year, and this year in defense. Yeah, they're 49th defensively. And then Jay Lucas came. Obviously, he's gone now, but this year Duke was ranked 4th in defense. So I think that's what separates the 2022 team to this year is this team just loves to guard, and that's been their identity since day one. So I think Duke does get to the championship, and I think they knock off Clemson. But again, if I was going to pick somebody that was not Duke, I wanted to bet it would be Clemson at plus 700, just the fact they're plus 700, and they should be less odds than that or better odds than that.